All right, first I just want to say thank you so much for joining us this afternoon and evening. Really, this is such an important and historic time for Nigeria, for Nigerians worldwide, and really for Black people worldwide.
Yeah.
What we've been seeing is unprecedented, inspiring, but also alarming. So I'm really grateful to be joined by you, Falls,
Yeah.
for
Thank you.
making time and working out the tech to join us.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So, for folks who don't know you, I just want to share that Falls is a Nigerian rapper, an actor, songwriter, and he began his career while in secondary school after forming a group called the Schoolboys, before his professional career as a single artist began in 2009. A lot of folks also know that he is the son of Femi Falana, a notable Nigerian human rights activist and lawyer. So you come from a rich legacy of struggle, of human rights activism, and really of like
Yeah.
just out. And so we know you for that. We know you for your gifts and your art, and we appreciate
Mhm.
you for being such a consistent voice for
Thank
our
you.
people and alongside our people.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Of course. So I would love to start with us just talking about what took place yesterday.
Say that
So
again.
I would love to start talking about what took place yesterday with President Buhari breaking his silence and finally speaking to the nation and really to the world, because the entire world has been watching what has been taking place in Nigeria. We've been watching the incredible uprising, the show of unity, the power of the people. We've been listening to the demands that are so righteous and so necessary in terms of
Mm.
ending police brutality, ending the impunity, the extrajudicial killings. And then yesterday, what we heard from the president was what? I mean, I would love to hear your assessment or your breakdown. I know you told
Yeah.
CNN some things yesterday, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on this kind of critical state that you said that we were in.
What we heard yesterday was nothing really. He might as well have not said anything. If anything, the only thing we could take away from that was basically a threat, to be honest, just basically insinuating that he doesn't really have that much regard for our human rights because we're not asking for too much. We're just asking not to be killed. We're just asking not to be tortured. We're just asking that these officers behave themselves. And he said, even though he said, oh, they had accepted our demands, blah, 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 but we haven't really seen real action as regards those. All the people that have been killed, they haven't gotten justice. Those officers haven't been brought to book. So how can you really say you've heard us and you've taken all our demands when you haven't really acted on it? He made no mention, absolutely no mention of the Lekki massacre. That is extremely, that, that is the height of disregard. Disregard for life. I mean, it's clear anyway that he doesn't value life. We can see from everything he does. There's tons of and tons of people dying in the north. Very regularly, and he has not been able to find an answer to Boko Haram. And now we're complaining about something that we don't think is okay. And he thinks the best solution to that is to send the military, the military, he sent soldiers to come there and shoot at peaceful protesters. That is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
It was unbelievable. And so many of us watched, via, Instagram lives or other footage that people were sharing. But for those who might not have heard what took place at Lekki Tollgate, do you mind just sharing what you understood took place and, what you saw or what you've heard from people who were there that afternoon and evening?
It's the worst thing ever, the most horrific thing you can think of. So gruesome. That day, earlier that day, the Lagos state governor had declared a curfew in the state and said everyone should, get back. I think they said everyone had to get back inside before 4 p.m. initially. And then they made another announcement that the curfew wouldn't start till 9 p.m. So, obviously they literally announced the curfew the same day. imagine at like,
I heard they said at 12 p.m. They said
at like 1 p.m. Imagine I hear like 1 p.m. that there's a curfew and it starts by 4 in 3 hours. Really? Like how does that work? But anyway, they said they extended the time and to allow people to get back home. So it would start by 9. By 6:45, I think just about 7 p.m. There were some protesters were still at the Lekki toll gate, and the soldiers arrived, and I don't even know how to describe. It's just ridiculous. They just opened fire. They just started shooting for nothing. These guys did nothing, absolutely nothing, but stand in one spot, sing the national anthem, wave the flag. They did nothing, absolutely nothing. And these guys got there and just shot. They shot live rounds at people, directly at people, in the middle of Lagos, one of the biggest, most bubbly cities in Africa. You're shooting at your people, our own military, our own soldiers shooting. Man, I've never seen anything like it before. Never. I don't think soldiers are even trained to shoot at civilians in the first place, let alone your own country people. It's ridiculous. I've never seen anything like it before. And the governor had the audacity to come on the news and say to us that there was no fatality, basically that no one died. Come on, really? I mean, it's just really hurtful, man. It's really hurtful, and it's so disrespectful to the people that we've lost, that we just lost, for you to almost attempt to erase their memory so quickly as well. It's so disrespectful, so disrespectful. Yeah.
I've been watching that, and I know for myself, I know for many other people, just completely devastated to watch. We've had many sleepless nights, I think everywhere now, because of this, because we've felt that there is no sense of even acknowledgement from the government, any sense of acknowledgement from people who actually have the power and the authority and should be condemning this behavior, who should have intervened and not ever let something like this happen. And I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for the voice that you have and that you continue to use. And thank you for sharing your account of what took place that fateful day.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Now, what do you feel is next, given what took place, one, the massacre, and I've been saying that from what I understand, that yes, there was a massacre on the 20th of October. We'll never ever forget this day, never.
Never.
But even prior to this, as you all have been rallying, as you've been protesting, as you've been speaking up against police brutality, it seems that there have been these other kinds of attacks on people who've been speaking out, even before this October 20th day, that some people maybe went missing. I was hearing in different parts, or people, like about 10 or so protesters have been killed even before this date. So it feels like there's been intimidation that has been building. And of course yesterday.
Throughout this entire period, it's been we've basically just seen exactly what we're complaining about. You have a set of people complaining about police brutality, and the way that you respond to them is with more police brutality. It's ridiculous. They've shot at people. We've had several instances of people being killed during and these protests are so peaceful. We've had instances in Abuja, which is the capital of the country, where people were literally on their knees, and we'd see the police in there's a big police truck approaching, and they're throwing water cannons, and they're spraying tear gas, wherever it is, on people. And these people are just there. They're just on their knees. They're not doing anything, and it's just been so much force, so much so much brutality for nothing, absolutely nothing. And we've lost so many lives. I don't have the exact numbers, but you know, throughout this entire period, is way more than 20, 25 people have already passed, you know, throughout this entire period. It's really been a rough time. It's really been a rough time. And these protests have gone on for maybe around about 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Even in addition to the massacre, that people have been being killed, you know, even before this Lekki toll gate.
Yeah, even before the Lekki massacre. That's what I'm saying. That's why I said altogether, this entire period it's been crazy. It's been crazy.
I'm so sorry. Now, how are you all, you know, keeping hopeful? Because the thing is, we know you're on the right side of history. You all have been doing the right thing. I know myself, you know, as I've traveled many times, you know, every year going back and forth to Nigeria multiple times a year, you know, I too have these fears when we're stopped by police, when, you know, people come up on you and essentially are demanding a bribe for you to pass. And so I know the situation and the protests and the demands that you all have been making are absolutely justified. But how are you all feeling now, given the intimidation, given the outright abuse, assault, the arming of, you know, poor people to come and attack everybody with, you know, peaceful protesters with machetes and so on? I've been hearing those stories. And then the actual massacre at Lekki Toge. How are you? And then not even that, now we also know that, you know, following day, the president does not acknowledge what took place, does not acknowledge that the military did this to its own citizens. How are you all even looking at the situation? People of conscience, you know, people who've been protesting peacefully for so many weeks and who are clearly on the right side of history, doing the right thing. How are you feeling about this moment, and what do you feel like there's like a next step? How do you make sense of all of this?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the question on the lips of many people. A lot of people have been trying to call me, send me messages, you know, just asking what's next, you know, what is next. To be honest with you, if I said I knew, I'd be lying. I don't know what's next, but I think that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of this movement, and that's what I'm most happy about. That's what I'm most grateful for. There's an energy. There's an energy that we've built, and there's a sense of unpredictability, if you like, and they don't know what's next. And this all these moves, all this brutality is the language of the oppressor. You know, they're trying to put you down so you can't speak anymore. It's like a bully in school. You know, they keep on doing these things to you, so in hope that you don't have a voice to speak anymore. But what I'm certain of is that it will never, ever work. In terms of shutting us up, in terms of shutting us down, they think we'll not speak up again. That is a big, big misconception. From here, it's only up from here. We're going to keep on being resilient. We're never, ever going to stop. That's one thing I know for sure. The biggest thing about this movement is no one person was coordinating. No one person was leading. It wasn't like myself and another artist called Runtown, the very first time that people went out, yes, we did lead people out. We did lead the march. We brought people out. We said we were going to do it, and then we went onto the streets. But after that one, every single protest, every single time that people have come out, it's not like there's no one that's called them out. They just come out on their own. And I think what's most confusing to these guys is the movement, the way it's working now, it's not what they used to. You know, what they used to is, a certain group of people start protesting. They ask, who's the leader? Say, okay, this guy's the leader. Come. They call him to the corner. They offer him some change, you know, and he compromises, and he doesn't want to carry on with the protest. So he goes back, he tells his people, let's calm down. But throughout this entire period, they've made several efforts. I know how many calls I've received. Are you the leader? Who is the leader? Who is the leader of this group? What's going on? There is no leader. It's the same emotion. It's the same sentiment that all Nigerian youth feel is the exact same thing. And nobody has to lead. We're just coming out and we're peacefully protesting and saying, this is what we want. This is what we want. You know, so I think that's why they're so confused, and they're just trying all sorts of tactics. And it's been embarrassing. It's been embarrassing. You know, they've hired people, thugs in quote, to like to try and create some sort of chaos and then blame it on us. You know, they say these protests are getting violent, blah blah blah, and they're clear videos of these, and it's so embarrassing. And you think about it, and you're like, are you guys not smarter than this? Like, come on. We see videos of these guys coming out of government vehicles and getting back into government vehicles, and like, come on, like it's so plain to see, it's so clear, you know, all their tactics, and it's not going to work. It's not going to work on us. You know, we're coming from such a traumatic time, such a traumatic space in general, as Nigeria, as Nigerians, and our parents' generation, and you know, with due respect to them, they went through a lot, but you know, a lot of these things have sort of broken their spirit. So it's not like they don't want to resist, but I feel like they've been through so much, and a big portion of them have sort of given up, you know. But for us, that is not an option. It is not possible. We can never ever give up. You know, this is our country. We don't know anywhere else. I have only one passport. I'm Nigerian, and that's all I am. That's all I know. That's all I've ever known. But this way of life, it has to change.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. We're standing in solidarity with you. And, you know, as somebody who's similarly, you know, I think about my own, you know, my parents and different elders that I know who have just endured a lot. And they were survivors, essentially. I think of them as survivors. And they did what they can to protect us, to provide for us, you know, and it's now incumbent on this next generation, our generation, to do what we need to do to bring about a new Nigeria, you know, a Nigeria that really works for everybody. And that, because there's no choice. We have, at this point, it's like, seeing what we've seen now, right? There's no other way, there's no alternative. We can't abide by the status quo in Nigeria. Absolutely not. It's not tenable, it's not working, it's not fair, it's not just. For the sheer wealth and riches and abundance and brilliance of this nation, of our people, it doesn't make sense to continue to go on like this with the majority of people suffering in squalor, being brutalized and so on. It's not right. There has to be another way. And so I am really grateful and proud of our generation, your generation, your people who are there on the ground, who've been saying essentially, enough is enough. We're not tolerating this anymore. We're going to do what we do in order to bring about Nigeria that is functional and is working for all of us. So thank you for saying, you know, all of that, and thank you for your role. And I think, you know, I'll just say one last bit, just because this is more of a conversation, but as I think about, even in the US, part of the strength and part of the resilience of the Black Lives Matter movement has been that it is leaderless, but we actually say leaderful, right? So we're all leaders. We all have, we all know, we have a moral compass. So it's not like one more than the other, one person. No, we all are entitled to speak up. And beyond entitled at this point, it's like, it's our duty. So I've been seeing it as more like, it's leaderful, actually. We see plenty of leaders, actually all of us. And so you can't buy us off. You can't buy one off and say, oh, you're going to shut down the movement, or you're going to kill this one and the movement shut down. No, you have to kill everybody. And, you know, we're too, and as you see in Nigeria, like, way too many of us. There's no way for that to ever happen. So I think there's something very powerful about it. And
big shout out to you guys on the entire Black Lives Matter movement, man. Big shout out. You know, when the whole thing was really boiling, you know, everyone out here was watching. Everyone out here was in solidarity as well. And that one is a bit more of a complex situation because there's the undertone of racism in there, and so it's a very, very sensitive situation. Right. But out here is like black on black. It's like African brother on African brother. It's Nigerian brother on Nigeria. Like, why would you do that to me? I could be your son. Like, I'm young enough to be your son. Why are you harassing me? Why are you extorting? Why are you locking me up? It's crazy, man. And I don't know why we do these things to ourselves, and even the guys on top, and why the corruption has been there for so long. They've grown to a level, such a deep level of being insensitive that they don't even care. It's like you're not even human anymore, so you don't care about majority of our population. And when I say majority, I mean like 80% majority.
Yes, I believe that.
Abject poverty, like extreme poverty. It's ridiculous. Imagine there's 10 people in this room and 10 of us are supposed to share a pie, and 8 people out of the 10 don't get to eat nothing, and just myself and another guy. But what level of wickedness is that one? Man, it's really crazy, man. It's really crazy.
It is wicked. But what I think about so often is, this kind of the legacy of colonialism, really, that also ingrained in us and brainwashed us with an idea that some people are better than others. So even, I know you're saying it's different in the US, of course, in terms of racism. However, the same idea that some are more entitled than others, and the idea that Black life is disposable, is one that actually is it's a value system and an ideology that's also been adopted by people on the African continent, Black people, right? So it's almost like we've internalized that oppression, we've internalized it and built our own systems, or have complied with systems of our colonial, masters, and have continued to move those systems forward, even if they're not present. We're still fulfilling their bidding. So that bidding is happening both on the continent, but it's also happening in the diaspora. I think some of these things are very much so interconnected. Little bit different features, of course, but I see some of these ways that
how I'll differentiate it is I'd say for the guys out here, I wouldn't give that as an excuse on their behalf, because it's like nearly excusing their behavior. Because if my colonial master said to me, I'm putting you in charge of your people, do it like this and do it like that, at the end of the day, they're not here anymore. Nigeria has been independent. We celebrated independence this month. Nigeria has been independent for 60 years. If at the end of the day, my colonial master has left, now I'm in charge of my people. This is my brother. This is my sister. I can see they're not okay. Why am I not even concerned about them? I can see that they're dying. I can see they don't even have hospitals. I can see they're not educated. Why don't I care about that stuff? What is wrong with me? I'm not going to blame that on the colonial master. I'm the one that is being stupid, that has been foolish here. So that's how I'll differentiate it from what's going on in the US.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like there's no, let me be clear, there is no excuse, never. And I think what's also been so powerful about the movements that you've started and you've been growing and growing over the years has been this idea that it's communal, right? And there's more of an knowledge of our own shared humanity. So I've been seeing these videos and testimonies about just people bringing food to the protests, people bringing water, sharing, different things, singing together, making sure everybody is looked after, just really powerful show of solidarity, mutual kind of a support of everybody. And I think that is the Nigeria that we so desperately need. And we need a government that helps to support that. That's the foundation of that. Absolutely. I think, my own earlier point was more around some of the economic factors and the ways that we're still connected to these, other nations. And so that kind of we'll talk about that another day. We'll get into those kinds. But you know what? From what I understand and what I've read before, you wrote a letter to Buhari at some point talking about reconstruction of the governing council of the National Human Rights Commission. What was your biggest takeaway from response, to your letter? Or has there been a real official response? Oh, did we lose you? Oh, shoot.
Can we get you to pause your recording?
Oh, yeah. Do I have to just stop or pause? Is there a pause?
Pause.
We have constant electricity. There was a power cut. The light went off. Everything went off. This still happens in 2020. It still happening. We don't have constant electricity. What kind of life are we living?
No.
It's ridiculous, man.
It's ridiculous, and it seems to me like some of that is also kind of the backdrop and some of the roots of why there are these protests, right? Some of the root we can't.
We started behind the. When we initially went out, what we're fighting against was police brutality. What we're still fighting against is police brutality, but. For the ordinary man that joined us out there, for him, it was a lot more than that. For him, what kept him there for the entire 2 weeks was, even if I go back home, I probably don't have food to eat, but I'm here and these guys are giving me food almost every hour. There's so much food, there's drinks, there's music, and, we're here genuinely for a cause. Well, I'm not going back home. So there was people that were there, they were camping out there, like the energy, the unity, like everyone was together. We were united by a cause. And for the first time ever, I'm 30 in a few days. And for the first time ever in my entire life, I saw a Nigeria that was genuinely one, just one people, not really caring about tribe, not really caring about religion. It wasn't about, where you from, we're just Nigeria, and we're fighting for one cause, and we all agree on that same cause, Yeah.
Incredibly beautiful, truly awe-inspiring to watch, making all of us so proud. And the fact that we can look after each other, that the Nigerian people, the average Nigerian person knows better, knows that we are in this together, right? And I think like you all showed that, demonstrated that. And in some ways it was just such a shame on the government to see the people working together, figuring out how to.
I think that was what was most, what was hurting them the most. That was what was pinning them. Just watching that these people have just found a way to unite. And some of the tactics that they tried to bring, especially when all this violence that they introduced started to happen, they started sending messages around that, these protests, the tribal wars, it's the West fighting against the North, fighting against the South. And everyone knows this has absolutely nothing to do with tribe or, any ethnic differences. This is about one cause. It's about police brutality, but it's also about how messed up, how you've genuinely, forgive my French, how you genuinely fucked up this country. And that's what it's about. And that's why everyone is coming out in this way. That's why everyone is uniting, because we all feel the pain,
Now, I completely agree. So you wrote this letter, right, about restructuring the governing council of the Human Rights Commission. Is that something you still are standing by? Is that something you would like to see? And what's your take on,
Of course, the Human Rights Commission is a body that is actually saddled with the responsibility of taking up cases of human rights violations, and sort of ensuring prosecution of erring officers or any individual, to be honest. So what I realized is that according to the law, the Human Rights Commission cannot really exercise its function without the what is called the Governing Council. The Governing Council, by law, is, like a group of people that are chosen based on experience, based on expertise in their certain fields. I think there's meant to be a former chief judge. There's meant to be lawyers of not less than a certain level, a certain amount of years experience. So there's a certain level of expertise needed to be in that governing council. But since 2015, it's ridiculous. Since 2015, President Buhari did not, I think maybe there was a governing council before, but I don't know what it was. Maybe he did not like the people that were there. But since 2015, President Buhari has refused to reconstitute the governing council of the Human Rights Commission. So this body, this particular organization that is meant to be fighting for human rights, that is meant to be helping to ensure that there are no violations of our human rights, is pretty much non-existent. And if this has been the case since 2015, then if you must know, come on, how can you not know that you don't have a human rights commission? Come on. If you definitely knew this, but you still did not constitute that governing council for so long, are you really someone that cares about human rights? Do you really have any sort of feelings towards your citizens? It really makes one want to think. But still till now, they haven't reconstituted, at least not to my knowledge. They would have to do that. But what another thing they've done, which was an announcement made, I think, last week, was they've said that each state should create what they call a judicial panel to handle cases on a state-by-state basis. In fairness, it's not a bad idea. The legality of that, we still have to consider, but we don't want to waste too much time on that, also because we want to see justice done in the fastest way possible. But of course, the legality of it is important because you don't want to start a process and then find out that, the process can't really work. But I think it's legal. Obviously I'll still have to double check some things, but I think it is. So, but what we've realized is that for this, they've been really dragging their feet. Not even all states have set up their panels, and it's just going slowly, and the people just have lost all forms of trust in the government. In fairness to the Lagos state government, before this horrible incident happened, they had set up their own panel. So the Lagos state government was like, we're ready for you. We need 2 youth representatives to be on the panel to ensure that everything is going well. So in fairness to them, they reacted, a bit quicker than other states. But because of the level of distrust that has been established, people weren't even sure what to think of that process, because that's what we hear all the time. We're setting up a committee, we're setting up a panel, we're setting up this, we're setting up that, but we never really see actual justice being done. Because if that was the case, then these things wouldn't keep on happening. So I think it was just that level of distrust, that made no one really pay attention to that. But I mean, it's not too late, like I said, most states haven't even set up their panels. It's just, we need to make sure that this process is actually going to work and is actually going to bring justice for the people that we've lost, because at the very least, that is what they deserve.
They absolutely do. I know we're kind of coming on time, but I want to ask you just another question or two, and then we can begin to wrap, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
So thank you. So there have been an incredible show of support from a lot of influencers, celebrities, Nigerian celebrities, and people on the ground. I know you talked about your role, you and Runtown, working together, working with the people and leading one of the rallies and protests and things like that. And of course, you've stayed the course, you've stayed right there. What do you see as the ongoing role and even maybe responsibility for people with various platforms, be it in the country or in the diaspora? What would you like to see people with some means and some influence do, given everything that's happening?
Yeah, everyone has to join the fight, but I think everyone has sort of realized that, this is a fight for everyone. There's been a bit of an aggressive approach by, the general populace. People basically attack anyone that looks like they're not supporting the cause, and it's very aggressive. So I think by now everyone gets the message that you're with us or you're against us, and you better be with us. So but I think everyone is like really, really lending their voices. At the protests, so many artists, so many superstars, came through. Even online, we've seen a lot of people that aren't even in the country, but they're showing support in every way that they can. So big shout out to everyone out there, because as artists, as public figures in general, the voice that we have is big, because you're in a position of influence. And, if you, at least it's what I think, if you don't use your influence for the greater good, then, what's the point?
Especially in these times when it's so clear. It's so clear, you're either you're on the side of justice and you're supporting, or to be silent in many ways is to be complicit with the status quo. I hear you and I feel you, and it has been really incredible to watch just everybody kind of joining together and showing unity and support. Now, before we close out, could you just tell us, what would you want us to be doing, even in the diaspora? What would you like to see? What are the ways that people can support now, given what Buhari has said in his address after breaking his silence? Wasn't very.
I would say in every way that you can, just continue to shine the light, for lack of a better phrase. Continue to shine the light on what's happening out here. The more, I guess, it's the more international press about it, maybe the more embarrassed these guys will feel. They seem to react to embarrassment. The more light, we shine on this, the more it's talked about internationally. Also, I hear that the UN has their eyes on what's happening in terms of sovereignty and, all international politics and all that stuff. I don't really know to what extent they could intervene, but, also it's important to just keep the conversation going outside. I think that would be the biggest thing you can do for us. Another thing you can do for us, maybe if you can go to the American embassy, tell them not to give them visa anymore. Tell these guys, because what they do, they fuck shit up here and they travel. They travel abroad, they get their children to travel abroad. Tell them to reject their visas, because I see no reason why any Nigerian that is, whether it be someone important or not, traveling out of this place when shit is so fucked up out here. Let us all stay here and fix it. If they get sick, for example, let them go to their own hospital here. Let's see if they'll be able to sort their illness out. Because what happens is you don't pay attention to your health care, for example, but when you get sick, you go away for medical tourism. You don't pay attention to education out here, but when your child has to go to school, you send them abroad. Maybe if they ban all of us and they say that we cannot come, then they will think to fix shit out here.
That is an idea. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can help us tell the American consulate, tell them we don't want visa again. They should not give any Nigerian visa. We don't want again. Let's all stay here.
All hands on deck. The new Nigeria needs to come to fruition. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I wanted to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Really grateful for your leadership, for your sacrifice, for your vision and commitment to our people. We see you, we see all the people that you're working alongside, and we respect and appreciate every single thing. We're looking, we're not going to turn away. we're in true solidarity with you all.
Thank
And
you.
we'll continue
Thank you
to
so
be
much.
checking in to see however we can support.